from First Energy, which is a multi-state electric utility headquartered out of Akron, Ohio. Moved down here 3 years ago. Husband of 43 years. We have 2 daughters, one in High Point and one in Holly Springs, which is the primary motivator for us moving down here. And then we have 3 lovely grandchildren, one 11, one 6, and one, as she told me last night, she used to be 4, now she's 5. So, as far as what I'm involved in down here, a good part of my time is spent as treasurer for the Chatham County Historical Association. I also volunteer at the museum. And if you took the spirit tour, you caught my act at Dr. Mathieson, the old Mathieson Clinic. Also, I'm on the promotions committee for the town. And I also am a farmhand for the farm at Penny Lane, 15501 north of here. In my spare, well, I won't say spare time, I am an adjunct instructor for Pierpont Community and Technical College back in Fairmont, West Virginia. And things I do in my spare time is play with the grandchildren and ride my bike.
Well, welcome and thank you for your public interest for all the things you mentioned and of course for serving on this board. Okay, we are moving into 7.2, the zoning text amendment, UDO. And I don't have a name here, or do we have someone to present?
Yeah.
Okay.
Training IT. Pass it off. Yeah. Okay, so I have the Q3 batch of text amendments to present. We got a little bit off track with our staff changes, so we're trying to get back on track now. So I have 7 amendments tonight. Yeah, there's like a
It's still not. It's not sure.
Okay, so the first text amendment is talking about the townhouse development standards. That language was put in place before we added the parking standards in chapter 6 for all residential. So this is a duplicate information. The exact language is in chapter 6 as well. So we're just removing it from 3 because it really belongs in chapter 6. And then the next 2 amendments are about special events. The special events used to be permitted under the UDO. They are not anymore. So they are outside of the planning department and they don't belong in the UDO anymore. So we're removing it from the temporary use table. And then on the next slide, we're removing the standards for special events because they're regulated in Code of Ordinances. Thank you. And then that brings us to the 4th amendment. So this is to prevent clear cutting for development. It's a start at tree protection. Then that goes on, and we can come back after if there's any questions after I get through them. Number 5 is a typo. So the 6.1 purpose is identical to the 5.1, and it shouldn't be. So we are striking the whole thing and then adding what it should be. This was a typo from when it was first adopted that we're fixing. And then that brings us on to the 6th amendment. So the change here, it's a lot of text, but the actual change is on the table, and we're increasing guest parking for townhouses from 1.25 to 1.5 per dwelling unit. We've found that in a lot of townhome communities, we have parking issues and it tends to overflow onto on-street parking. So we want to declutter the on-street parking. Emergency response is having a hard time navigating with the crowded streets. And then the last amendment, number 9, is addressing driveway standards. And that's a similar issue that we're running into, is that there's not enough parking in the current driveway standards. The current driveway standards don't allow for enough parking in the driveway. And so we're ending up with crowded streets again, and emergency response is having a hard time getting through. So those are our 7 amendments. Got any questions?
Questions for Jenna on any of these items?
Could you tell us more about the tree protection?
Yes, so the North Carolina statute 160D that guides planning and zoning, the language that it allows us to do is that it gives us the option to enforce. Looking for, sorry. Go down. I think it's slide 5. So this is the language that's in 160D. And the way that it's worded is that you have the option to enforce it, but if you want to enforce it, you need to add it into your ordinance. So we would like the option to enforce it, so we want to add it into our ordinance.
Okay.
What it states is that if and we have our attorney here, so if I speak incorrectly, I'm hoping he'll step in, but the way that it works is if somebody clear cuts it for a use outside of like timber harvesting, forestry, if they have like a management plan, if they clear cut their lot and then apply for some kind of development permit, we can deny their permit for 3 years after the completion of a timber harvest. Or there's another part that we can deny it for up to 5 years. So it's the same language that's in 160D. We've had a lot of requests to have some sort of tree protection. So this is the start.
Is this kind of a stop from just clear cutting and pretending like you're going to clear cut as a harvest and you're gonna redo it and then putting in a plan for a development? Is that kind of the idea?
I believe so, yes.
Sorry, I took it. Okay, perfect. Let's make sure that I understand.
I have a lot of help with this amendment, but the others have gotten done very well.
The only thing that caught my eye was that last phrase that the harvest is a willful violation of the town's regulations. And it seems to me that the way that that's nested in there, that they could willfully violate the town regulations, but still may be eligible for a permit.
Every 5 years.
It has to be after 5 years. I was gonna say, this is our wonderful town attorney's language, so I would defer to him.
Okay, well, I'm just saying here, the town may deny a development permit or refuse to approve a site or subdivision plan for either a period of up to 5 years after the completion, so on and so forth. So it seems like with that word may in there, that causes me just a little bit of heartburn, that there could be a circumstance that there is a willful violation, but somehow it would get approved.
You would think the town would stick with its guns and support it, and not run.
Right, but we can't conjecture who's going to be on, in approval process in the future. So that's what I'm saying. And this is where I'm coming from. Where I worked, if we had an employee who willfully violated a safety rule that caused injury or harm to somebody else, then there was no may or weasel word like that. It was, you are terminated, period. And that's what I'm just looking for here. I mean, if somebody willfully violated our town's regulations, I would think that we would want to say, there will not be a permit approved for at least 5 years. To me, that's a little more cut and dried.
So it would be shall instead of may.
Exactly.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
Does everybody understand Alan's
Yes.
situation issue there?
I guess my question would be, and this may be a situation where you can't think of any extenuating circumstances, but wouldn't the may would kind of give the town the leeway if there was an extenuating circumstance where something happened?
Well, and I thought about that. And to me, the extenuating circumstance would then be taken care of when the investigation is done. Yeah, if the investigation yields that there was no willful violation, then you're free and clear, but.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
I could see this being applicable in a situation where a property is timbered and sold. Am I missing maybe some of your point? So I own it, I timber it, I clear cut it.
Mhm.
And I sell it to somebody, and then they, being unfamiliar with this, they go and look at the zoning, regulations, the UDO and everything. And they say, oh, well, I'm not gonna buy it now, or I'm stuck for 3 or 5 years because I didn't know that, but it was not their decision to clear cut it in the first place. That would be, to me, that would be a may. Am I thinking through that, Mr. Messick?
That's a pretty common occurrence. Secondly, flexibility is generally a good thing, but I can see black and white.
All right, but I'm, in this case, then it wouldn't be that person that engaged in the willful violation, correct?
Okay.
Prohibition would apply.
Prohibition would still apply.
Okay, well,
If you bought it and it had been previously clear cut by someone who was willfully violating, it says shall, then it means the buyer has to sit it out for 3 times.
I'm
Gonna ask,
still thinking that we need willful violations. We need to stick to our guns.
Yeah, well, I'm struggling a little bit, not trying to be argumentative here, but if I clear cut it for the timber value, and I meet my erosion plans and my stream setbacks, everything, if I do that properly when I'm harvesting, I may have no clue or intent that I'm ever going to sell it to develop it. But then something may happen in my situation where I turn around and sell that property totally devoid of trees, with the exception of the buffers and so forth. So, I'm not, I like what I think your theory is that we have more tree protection.
I think what he's saying is, in that circumstance, you're not willfully violating the town's regulations. And then that would come up in the investigation.
But
Yeah,
yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Would you like to make well, we can move to accept
If you go to.
any or all of the items, or we can amend or change any specific things. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Any terms?
I have prepared a motion, if everything was good. So from this motion, you can always modify it to say, oh, see, this is a typo, so it happens when you copy and paste, I apologize. So it says with the approval, with the removal of item 15, that does not belong there. That was from the last round of amendments. So we can modify this statement to say, make a motion to recommend, to approve the text amendments for the EDO for approval with the modification to change text amendment number
581.
to say may or shall.
Oh, shall.
Instead of may.
Yeah, what she said.
You would like, go ahead and make that motion? Okay.
I make that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor from Alan to adopt the zoning text amendments as stated by Jenna, with the change on 5.81, the town shall from the town may. Is that town shall deny So before we move on, let's, if anyone's willing to second that motion, that does not mean we end discussion on the zoning text amendment. There could be other changes or amendments as you all see fit. We just hit this one. Let's go ahead, if you see fit, to second that and get it on the table for now.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Corey has seconded Alan's motion. Okay, so that deals with the logging aspect. Are there any other of the components that anyone else wants to get clarification on or have any issues with? Corey?
Jenna, I have one quick question with the extra quarter parking space per DU.
Can you go back to slide 7, please?
What will and maybe this isn't, educate me here. How will this affect our impervious on these sites? Because obviously you would have more parking.
Yes. So we looked at a lot of options. I looked at over 25 municipalities for what we should do. And they ranged, right now, we have a pretty common one. There's a couple that have a higher one. And we crunched the numbers under 3 different scenarios. And it was, the most dramatic one was a 30% increase on parking. So it'd be like about a 30% increase. And this like least would be to stay the same. And the middle one, I want to say it was about between a 7 and 10% increase.
But it wouldn't affect the limits on any given type of development, would it?
They would still have to overall meet the impervious restrictions.
But we're not changing those restrictions.
No.
Okay.
Just adding more parking. So they would have to have less.
Get that out elsewhere. Okay.
I like that. When I ride through Powell Place and maybe some Chatham Park, I creep through there at 15 miles an hour because I'm afraid a kid's going to come behind a bumper. It's so bad. It's very scary. So I don't know what, I'm glad we're raising it. I guess what's in my head is I wonder if it'll need to be raised again in the future because it's, these developments are so tightly packed.
We vetted 7 and 8 very heavily.
Well, good.
Across the state of North Carolina. I went like down towards Charlotte, down towards Wilmington, and
Okay.
everything within our region, all the way out to Winston-Salem and Greensboro.
Good.
And what we have is on the restrictive side of about half.
Mhm.
And then it was like what we have currently. And then Wilmington and Cary had higher requirements. Specifically, those were the 2 that we were the most interested in. The math just got a little complicated, so we want to try to keep it a little easier for staff.
And is the attachment 1, which is the driveways and the alleys and that sort of stuff, is that just to try to open up space so that sidewalks are not imposed on and there's room? I'm thinking of the alleys in Powell Place where they,
Amendment?
beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, I'm a little
Just for
confused.
the driveways being 22 feet.
Yeah, the
Attachment
driveway.
1.
Yeah.
So if you want to go to slide 8.
When you go down those alleys in Powell Place, a lot of people park in the back or have a garage in it.
So the idea with this one is that we are increasing the length from 20 feet to 22 feet to account for longer vehicles and hitches to get them out of the sidewalk. And then the width, we want it to make sure that it's wide enough to actually be able to open doors with 2 cars parked next to each other.
So it's more restrictive again, right? It's more restrictive than what we've had. Are there any other questions, comments for Jenna or staff?
Just one, the 22 feet of separation between the street right of way and easement versus the 20 feet that's in effect right now that could be from the sidewalk. So there are no circumstances where this new 22 feet would result in a driveway less than 20 feet.
If it's already been approved under the existing UDO, there
Mhm.
might be some development projects that come with that, but
Mhm.
going forward applications. Well, and again, from the time that this is adopted, if it's adopted by the Board of Commissioners, which is when it would go into effect. So from that date, applications would be under that UDO.
Mhm.
So you might see some development
Oh.
now that's grandfathered in.
Mhm.
Yes. Or if they came in under a master plan, they could potentially try to negotiate that, or under conditional rezoning, they could try to negotiate that.
Okay.
But that would come to the planning board, and then that would come to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. So I guess maybe the part that I'm missing, just out of being naive, is this street right of way or easement extends to the owner's edge of the sidewalk? Okay,
Not necessarily.
okay,
The right of way itself is right of way. Many times a sidewalk is going to be contained within the right of way.
mhm,
If it's not, there may be a sidewalk easement outside of the right of way, but that right of way itself could extend even further than the sidewalk.
okay, okay,
Andy would like to.
I was just gonna throw in, this is primarily directed to anything that isn't Chatham Park.
right.
I just want to be super clear, this does not affect
Oh,
Chatham Park
thank
or the elements or anything about it.
Mhm.
It's the whole rest of the place.
Yeah.
Which is what we're super interested in, is not replicating, say, a pattern, one that you might know about. We have tapered driveways, wide driveways, tapered wide, and everybody with a tapered driveway coming to us and going, I need to add more impervious. Yeah, it's unpleasant.
Oh, I know.
Good way to meet new people. It's unpleasant.
Bump into them, but
I met you, but.
any other questions, comments, or anything related to the motion here on the zoning text amendments? Nope. Okay, so we got a motion with the one statement about item 5 shall from May. All in favor of the stated motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. And you got the motion in second, Jenna? It was Alan and Chair
Corey.
Corey, okay. At least I'm calling you Chair now. Okay, we are moving into planning department updates with our director, Randy.
Super short, which is good. Next month, we're going to have we're going to have an election of officers, as you mentioned. We're also going to have I'm sorry. Anyway, we're going to have two sort of major rezoning applications in front of you all. They're conditional zoning. They both are Chatham Park related. In this particular case, in each one, they are Chatham Park adjacent. They are owned by Chatham Park, but they are not part of the PDD. So this is land that's close by, but basically we're mimicking the zoning inside of the PDD. So that should be coming to you all next month's meeting. And I don't know about the other item. Maybe not. Affordable? No. And we think the Chatham Park affordable housing amendment is also coming, but that remains to be seen. Let's hope so. Anyway, we also have one more member whose name I do not have in front of me right now, so I'm going to plead ignorance, but in January, you all will have a new team member, and we are still on the search for ETJ representation. It's been re-advertised. Are you going to say something? No? Okay. I was going to get a signal from across the room. Apparently not. It's imaginary. But anyway, there is an ad running, and we will be accepting applications for ETJ appointment. And anyone who is interested in serving, obviously, fills out a new application.
While we're on the subject, does Matt need,
Including Matt.
he needs to reapply?
Fill out it. Yes, sir. Absolutely positive. All right, but anyway, other than that, I just want to wish you all a great Thanksgiving, and I hope it goes well for all of you and you get to have some time with people that you care about and appreciate everybody's service.
Any questions for Randy?
Maybe I'm not going anywhere.
Looks like you're,
Sounds like I'm-
looks like you're free.
Thank you for your time.
All right, we're moving to board comment period. Does anyone have anything to bring up? It's not 6:10, but it's. It doesn't all go like this, Alan, trust me. Yeah, okay, seeing none, a motion for adjournment's in order.
Make motion to adjourn.
Corey moved to adjourn,
I'll second.
Charity second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
Alan, don't let it go. You're really having this.
Oh, I know. I've been to a few meetings.